Welcome back to Supreme Fuzzler. I'm the ever-popular Supreme Fuzzler here. Joining us today will be no one else, but it's just me. But I am going to be the ever-popular Pete White, and the lovely Billy Quizboy, or the mysterious and great adventurer, Rusty Venture. We are doing Venture Brothers, Episode 1. What was it again? It's Dia de los Dangeros. Excuse me. It is in the first episode of the season 1 officially, after the pilot was finished. This is an episode that starts we're gonna get into the reviewing of this episode and just going over it. But it really is a pretty good episode. It's one of the funnier ones. It's one of the ones that really gets you into the show. I will never deny that it really is pulling you in. It really showcases most of the best characters in this series that are at least introduced in this first episode. And some of their best traits and things. So, without further ado, ever popular Supreme Fuzzler here. I should have named him the freaking podcast channel, The White Room. It's probably already taken though, for other reasons. So we're gonna be doing we're getting back into this real quick, into the Dia de los Dangeros. Beginning of the episode, of course, it opens up with "You should never have come back here, Senor Samson." So funny. Okay, I'm not gonna get too much into this because again, I want you guys to support this official release. So definitely watch this first episode. But at the same time, I'm also going to go over it, I guess. So I don't know why I say that in a way, but still. So the guy, it opens up with Brock, almost naked, playing cards with this Mexican man, who basically is like, "You should never have returned here. You should never have dealt with us before. You think I'd forget what you did?" And he shows off his scar and is like, "You think I'd ever forget this?" basically. And Brock is just like, "I don't know, maybe." And he's, "Well, I didn't. So let's show our hand." And so Brock's got a full house, and then the dude shows off, and he's like, "Royal flush, I win again." He's got an 8-2, Jack 3 and 5 or some shit, and it's just horrible. He's got nothing. But it's like, "We play Tijuana rules. In Tijuana, I make the rules." And so, excuse me. Oh god, I keep dropping my pen. Excuse me. So he is like, "Take off your underwear," to essentially to Brock. Brock does, and they just does a whole fucking sound effect with the whole, because he's just got a big ass package, and it's Brock Sampson. So in the freaking, they have one, and the way it opens was with wrestlers, so they're all a bunch of just Tijuana wrestlers apparently. And so we have Brock is just after he takes off his underwear, this wrestler starts clapping, and of course he gets stopped by the boss, but it's hilarious. And Brock just uses his belt or his underwear and attacks a guy, beats up people. You see, well, they don't show it to you, but he wraps up 2 guys in a chair, and it's a really good showcasing of just how badass and brutal this guy's gonna be. He whoops some ass. The fucking boss guy's like, all right, here's the part for a 69 Charger, because that's Brock's car always. And he's like, "No charge, whatever, get out of here." And then one of the wrestlers, the guy who claps, is like, "No, wait, take me with you." "Sorry, kid." And just throws him his shirt, fucking Mean Joe Green style. Sorry, I had a jiggy drink. And so, after that, he leaves, and you hear the intro. The intro just flows into, after the intro, it flows into Rusty, or Dr. Venture, giving a lecture about how chupacabras are not real and how like there's no way that there'd be myth and like no way that they're not a myth and like just essentially they are myth. There's nothing you can do about it and it's obvious kind of shit. And that basically, and it's hilarious because like one of my favorite jokes he gives is at the end of it. He's like, if you apply the same way principles to Catholicism, an interesting thing happens. So funny, great jokes. And then one guy raises his hand, and, like Spanish speaks to him. I'm assuming he's asking if this is English only or a Spanish class. And then the Spanish teacher speaks up, or like the Spanish speaking teacher, and is like, this is English only, basically, I'm assuming. And then most of the class, like 3 students leave. So great. And then you get that, you get Rusty finishes his lecture. Friggin' they talk to the other professor. The other professor is like, sorry, it's the Day of the Dead. It's that celebration that they always do over down in Mexico. And fucking Rusty, rude ass bastard that he is like, oh, that fakey little death day bullshit or whatever the fuck how he says it. He's an asshole about it. Okay. He's just an ass about it. So then you have he deals with that, goes out, talks to Brock, or oh no, that's right. Right before that, Rusty does the whole joke of like, where do I get my check essentially, or how do I do this for payment? And then he goes out, sees Brock. Brock's like, how's your speech go? And Rusty talks about it, and then Rusty's just like, wait, you don't really care, do you? And Brock's like, not really. And then he gets a prostitute or a girl. I can't actually say which one. It might be just a woman, actually, now that I think about it. And then leaves with her and is like, I'll meet you back at the X1 later at the airplane. And the boys show up. They're fucking all excited. And then the Spanish professor shows up to give Rusty his check. Rusty's like, oh yeah, thank you, very generous. And then it's like, oh, pesos. These zeros mean nothing. It's so fucking brutal. The multicultural and great joke. This show just does great, especially for its era. Now this is 2004 at this point, and I just love it. After that, the monarch butterfly lands on his shoulder, and he's like, oh god, this crazy evil thing. And then the professor's like, it's just a monarch butterfly. They migrate here during the autumn or whatever the crap, so that they can die in the Day of the Dead, in the fucking festival, actually. Or part of the festival of some kind. And then he's like, and then the boys are like, are they dangerous? And then freaking, I love the Mexican professor's like, you're not serious, are you? No, it's not dangerous. Ugh. And then it cuts to Monarch, and Monarch's like, that's where you're wrong, Doctor. This is very dangerous. But how did Dr. Venture know that I'm down here? Because apparently that they didn't plan their... Like, he's not down there to fight Rusty. He's just fucking down there fucking with monarch butterflies, apparently. Looking for his parents or some shit later on. It's great. So he's like, how do they know we're here? And then he just kind of is like, to his henchmen, like, which one of you sold out the monarch? And he's like, I'll turn around. Not gonna make any punishment. I just want to know who did it. And one dude coughs, and he just like shoots him, and he just kills him, and it's like, I knew it. Kicks his body even. He's like, I knew it would be you, and Dr. Girlfriend, who gets a few more lines in this one than the first pilot episode, and you actually get to hear her, the way her voice is, and she's much better animated in this one also. Anyways, she's like, it's number 37, and he's like, oh, number 37, I knew it was you, traitor. So funny. So after that, Monarch calls up Speedy. Speedy's a fun character, a new character who doesn't have wings, apparently. That's like a ranking system or some shit in the fucking Monarch crew. Although, we find out later that it's like, I think for killing is what it is. But anyways, that's way later, like season 7. My bad. Spoilers. Anyways, Speedy gets called up, and he's a young lad, apparently, and he's like, you're gonna go watch Dr. Venture and make sure that he doesn't, like, find out I'm here, basically. And fucking Speedy's like, alright, am I gonna get my wings? And he's like, no. And he's like, never gonna get those wings. Like, oh, Speedy, I'll let you drive the Monarch Mobile. You can take no more than 3, no less than 3, and no more than 5 henchmen with you. I think he takes 3. I think he actually only takes 2. No, he takes 3. Okay, and the Monarch Mobile. So Speedy's given that mission. When Rusty was also, I missed this kind of, but when Rusty was, after talking with the boys and sending them off, because he sends them off with like $10 bill and tells them to stop bothering him, he also is like, I got a meeting with a doctor. And so after the whole Speedy thing, it cuts back to Rusty, and Rusty's with his doctor. This, or it's actually, let me see. Let me try to remember. I'm trying to remember. Okay, Speedy. Okay, and then, okay, no, that's right. After the Speedy thing, it flows into, to Rusty telling the boys to get the hell out of his hair. Giving them $10, telling them to get out of there. He's got an appointment with a Dr. Estevez, and fucking, so, and then it cuts to him with Dr. Estevez, and he's like, and Dr. Estevez is, or whatever the fuck his name is, Ernesto, sorry, not Estevez. So Dr. Ernesto is like, no, I cannot give you these prescriptions. They're practically criminal, is what you're asking me for. And Rusty's like, come on, look at this place. You can't tell me you're not gonna do it. I have tripolar disease and shit like that. And the dude's like, no, man, I can lose my license. I know I'm a Tijuana doctor, but come on, dude, I have scruples. And so Rusty's like, what would you say to Alexander Hamilton? Not much. Okay. What about President Benjamin Franklin? So fucking funny, because Franklin was obviously not a president, amongst other things. So the doctor is seen kind of like shaking it and like scratching his neck, being like, maybe. And then it cuts to the boys fucking the boys are basically, sorry, I'm trying to fucking fix a thing. The boys are talking to Helper. They're talking to each other, and Dean's basically like, hey, should we try to do something not selfish with the money that we got from Dad, from Pop? And Hank's like what, dude? And he's like, well, Helper, isn't he always around and, helping us and just doing what he does? And Hank's like, yeah. And Dean's like, doesn't he look really beat up and all crapped out? And Hank's like, yeah. And like, well, you see what I see? And he points to an auto store, and fucking Hank's just like, you wanna buy a car? And so they go get him, I guess, get a makeover. And so they show him, they get him into the body shop. And then it cuts to Speedy in sombreros with his crew, disguised, fucking, and Speedy's like, let's get him. And the other henchmen are like, no, that's not our orders. We were told just to watch him. Speedy's like, he's not wrong. He's like, we've been trying to get this guy for years. Let's get his kids and straight up just get this done. And it's like, okay, you're not wrong, but that's not a good idea. So, but, let's do it. So they hit the boys with the fucking darts. They, but the boys get a message out. Conveniently, Brock's just down the road. Brock shows up, is running towards them. They get like 15, or honestly like 50 darts in Brock. Brock grabs Speedy by the throat as they keep shooting more darts into him. Eventually, the Monarch Mobile, which is like a kind of a van truck, gets backed into Brock to knock him out. So they knock Brock out, or even they seemingly kill him. So, and then with that, but Brock didn't let go of Speedy, so they have a whole, like, this scene that's one of, like, it was one of the more iconic scenes for the series for a long time. It was just the scene I always thought about every time when I thought about the series for a long time, until I got into Season 2's end, and Season 3, and then eventually Season 4. And then beyond that, eventually, of course, also. But this scene where, like, you have Speedy dying with Brock's clenched hands over him. Also, it's the first introduction of 24, real quick. 24, Ray Romano voice, so funny, grand, important character, and great, fun character throughout this entire series. And then you have a really fun joke here. I'll just show you this little meme here. Then it's hilarious, but it's not at the same time. It's kind of like one of those deep, sad, hilarious moments, because it's like, Speedy they can't get him out of Brock's grip, and they supposedly think Brock's dead, so there's nothing they can do. So they shoot Speedy and to knock him out, or maybe just kill him. I don't know if those darts kill. Either way, Speedy dies. He is definitely, most definitely dead from this whole scenario, and that is intense as hell. So they capture the boys because of this, and they're like, "Oh shit!" And Monarch's like, "What the fucker? I didn't tell you to do that." The other henchmen are like, "Well, it was Speedy's idea," and he's like, "Well, where the hell is Speedy?" He's like, "He died. Brock Sampson got a hold of him." Like 24 says that. So Brock Sampson got a hold of him, and Sampson, don't remind me. You don't have to tell me. He was this close to getting his wings. So funny. But that's what I'm saying. Like, now Brock Sampson will come get all sick house on us. But he's not going to be an issue now, he gets told. And he's like, no way, he's dead. And like, yes. And it's like, oh shit, hell yeah, this changes everything. So he takes the boys' communicator watch, calls Rusty. They do a whole joke where Rusty starts talking and fucking Monarch starts talking to, like, thinking he's talking to Rusty, but it ends up being a message. It's kind of decent. And so he leaves a message. After that, it cuts to Rusty having a dream. It's the first showing of these weird-ass dreams that Rusty has, where, like, he's in the womb, and he's getting, like, beat up or eaten in the womb. Foreshadowing for the end of the season 1. Interesting stuff, actually, in my opinion. And then he wakes up, Rusty, in a tub full of ice, with a note telling him that his kidneys have been taken, or his kidney, I think. But apparently he already was missing a kidney, or I'm uncertain. I'm not sure if he had both his kidneys taken, or if he just simply was already missing a kidney. I'm not sure. But he's like, 1, 2. Oh, this is bad. Because he's essentially missing both kidneys, and you're fucked. So he calls Helper. Helper's all decked out and mad and crazy looking. And he's like, I need your help, Helper. Freaking gotta keep me alive. So he, like, gets on top of Helper, and they go drive off to go find, I'm assuming, a lab. Then Monarch starts talking to the boys, and is like, how do you, like, what's up, boys? I'm like, how do you, because they woke up, and like, how do you like the lair of the Monarch? And they're like, we don't even know you, but that kind of crap. And then Monarch's like, come on, you know me. I mean, I must be whispered about all over in the Venture compound. No, I thought our dad's arch nemesis was Underbite. Underbite, that nasty toad, and so funny. So because of after that, earlier also, Rusty needs the boys for his kidneys, he realizes, but the boys won't answer, so he calls Brock. Brock won't answer, so he's like, alright, I'll call Helper. That's the whole reason Helper shows up. And he's like, I'm gonna go for Brock. I'm gonna track him down and get to him. Then they have the scene where Monarch feels bad for the boys. He's having, like, he talks to them about their, how do you get a hold of your dad? And they're like, well, we usually use our watches. And he's like, I've already tried that, and, like, I've left, like, 50 messages. You'd think he'd care more about his kids. And then, of course, the boys are like, well, shit, you know. I wish he did care about more. I mean, they don't say that, but they have that whole dejected look shit. And then of course, Monarch is just like, oh, I'm sure he's worried sick about you. Of course, I don't know. So, excuse me, I'm drinking again. Anyways, so then that flows into a scene where Rusty finds Brock, where he's looking for Brock, and he's bitching about him, and then he finds him, and he's like, oh no, my lovely angel. He was like an angel, and I let him die. So funny. Although I think that's a later scene when he's all drunk and shit, but still. Great scenes. Great show. Well, actually, yes, that's right. Before he finds Brock, he has to do the whole using Helper to be the recycling of his blood or whatever the hell. Doing what the kidney does, essentially. Using Helper. Which is awesome. And then he goes and finds Brock, though. And then they have the scene, and they're talking about with Monarch and Dr. Girlfriend, where they have, Monarch starts with I want to go attack on those boys. Dr. Girlfriend's like, sighs, and then is like, well, when we enter this relationship, we agree we didn't want any kids or anything like that. And he's like, I know, but I just want to make sure they're okay. And then they have like an existential talk. And then Rusty, or sorry, I keep doing that. Monarch goes into his backstory and explains how when he was a child, a plane crashed, killing everyone on board except for him, basically, including his parents. He lived for months, a few months, with the monarch butterflies around that he fucking crash neared. And those monarch butterflies, he lived on mildew and puked it out and had toxicity problems for the rest of his life, he says. But and then they disappear one day when he woke up during the fall, which is, they went to Mexico. And he does the whole, like, and that's why I'm here, I'm looking for my parents. And then Dr. Girlfriend is like, butterflies only live for 9 months. What? So brutal. But those boys are alive, and you can go to them. And so he goes to the boys with cookies, and they get all into a wrestling match, because they're like, the fuck, Monarch, we're going to beat the crap out of you because of this. So then it goes to the Rusty scene where he's drinking, and he's like a living angel, and he's talking about how Brock is great. Then Brock busts out of the fucking ground, pulls fucking Speedy's body out, all black and blue, because Speedy's dead. And fucking Rusty's like, oh no, I shouldn't have played God. And fucking then Braga takes his booze, just drinks it all real quick, one huge pull off of that bottle, and then is like, boys, where are the boys? And so then they go to scenes where they're fucking they're on a plane, they're going towards Monarch, they figured out where he is. Brock's like, how long can you live when you're not attached to Helper, to Rusty? Rusty's like, I don't know, a few hours, but it's gonna be really uncomfortable, and he like rips it off of him. Also, Rusty, that when he's right before they crash out of the car, they have Rusty. A chupacabra comes out of Brock's car and f's Rusty up, and Rusty's like, "What the hell was that?" And Brock's like, "Chupacabra. They're all out from Mexico." No way! It's so funny. Madden made sure that was in here. It's awesome. And then they drive off with their car. And then a fucking parachute pops up, and Rusty's like, oh, thank God, I thought you were gonna do. And then fucking Brock undoes the parachute completely, and it just smashes through the fucking roof, right into where Monarch and the boys are wrestling. And then fucking Rusty's like, okay, what are you gonna do? Because hundreds of henchmen show up, and Brock is just like, don't worry, I got this. Like, are you sure? There's a lot of them. Like, they hit me with a truck. Truly, this episode not only gave us a lot of iconic lines, but really sets Brock some badassery up really well. Sets up the dynamic where Monarch particularly Monarch's crew is going to get smashed and slaughtered by Brock all the time, every day, all day, no matter what. And that Brock is an unkillable monster. And so they have that shit. And then, and then you have the whole, they save the boys. And then the outro and the after credits scene. Oh no, that's right. Before they do the outro, they have the whole scene where fucking Rusty's explaining to the boys, basically, and the boys are like, "But how are you gonna decide which kidney you're gonna take?" And then they rock paper scissors it, basically, and then they cut to the outro just before you see what they did. And then fucking in the after credits scene, the boys are waking up, and then Dean and Hank are like, I picked Rock, and Hank's like, I picked Rock, and fucking Rusty's like, and I picked 2 beautiful kidneys. I feel freaking amazing. So funny. God, Rusty's a bad dad, but that's just how things are in this bitch of an earth, like with Rusty Venture. Dr. Thaddeus S. Venture. Okay. That is the end of the episode, too. We'll get to that, and then that episode's really good. I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it ever. Thank you for listening to me talk about it and basically recap it, is what I feel like I've been doing, though. I don't know how exactly I want to do these things, because they're not necessarily reviews. I'm just recapping it. The review of this episode is it's a really good episode. It is an incredibly... it's a great way to start the series, much better than the pilot was. It doesn't introduce as many characters, per se, because it doesn't have, like, Billy and White. It doesn't have Dr. Impossible. But It has Monarch and 24, Dr. Girlfriend a little more, and of course Brock and the boys and Rusty. And it showcases, in my opinion, all of their, like, the tropes that are going to make their characters. Thaddeus, or Dr. Venture, is callous, uncaring, it seems, almost, to his boys, and greedy, and selfish, and self-serving, and unscrupulous, but also caring enough that he was like, oh my god, when Brock actually died. Brock is a monstrous machine who cannot be killed. The Brockness monster, the Brock lobster, the Jesus Tralfaz, the monster killing machine, the slayer of men, slayer of henchmen. He's just a madman, and you just love him at the end of this episode. And simultaneously, it shows the naivete of the two boys. They say quite a few times that Dean's the smart one, so Hank's obviously the strong one. And they set that dynamic up really well using this episode. They also set up the Monarch really well, where he is like, even especially with the scene where he talks about his arch nemesisness to Rusty, to the boys, and the boys are like, we don't really know you, but he's like, I have always hated your father, basically, and I am consistently always being the one who should be against him, and that I should be known because that's what I do, and it's my arch enemy shit. And yeah, so it sets up those characters really well, and of course 24 as a long-running henchman. I think that's about it at this point. It was a great episode. It also showcased some fun other cultures, other places, which will be a staple of the series for the next 3 seasons, basically, where they would go on their adventures, essentially. They're Johnny Quest-style adventures. They go on adventures. They do weird-ass fucking boy adventure style shit that is unexpected for their age and stuff and all that crap, and that they're not prepared for. But they have a super scientist dad and a secret agent super bodyguard. It's just how things roll. Thank you for joining me. Please like, comment, subscribe if you are on the YouTubes. If you are, just keep looking for me on the podcast. I'll be uploading more episodes of Venture Brothers and this first season specifically for a few weeks. It'll take me a little bit, but as I do it, I'll be doing I just gotta do the editing for the YouTube video specifically. More or less, I could just post this video without even editing it, or the audio clip without even editing it, onto the podcast. Thank you for joining me. This is Supreme Fuzzler. I hope you guys have a good day. A very venture-roos. That was so bad. Well, I hope you have a good day, you venture-roos. Goodbye.